Joining us today for a guest conversation is Branda. Branda is the email copywriter, launch strategist, and chocoholic behind the Relevant Collective. She writes strategic copy for former teachers turned business owners who channel their skills from the classroom into thriving service and product-based businesses. She's all about turning your pie in the sky goals into reality. In today's coffee chat, we talk about the danger of saying yes to everything, how we sometimes bring the same work habits from our first career into our second, and how that's both a pro and a con. We'll talk about how no one's coming to save us and we have to build our own path to the dream day of what we want our life to look like. I hope you enjoy this chat with Branda as much as I did and head into the show notes to connect with her. I'll leave all of the links down below. You're listening to Your Win-Win Teacher Business, a podcast for teacher authors who want to make a big impact in the world for teachers and students and have fun doing it. I'm your host, Janice Cook, here with a pep talk to start your week off strong. Some seasons of running a business feel hard and sticky, but it shouldn't feel like that all the time. Let's make your business a win-win together. Hi, Branda. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk business today. I would love to hear why you started your business way back in the day.
I would love to say that I had this really amazing origin story of I just knew I was destined to be a copywriter, but that's really not how it happened. I think like a lot of us in entrepreneurship, I kind of just fell into it. I had been teaching for 5 years and my fourth year teaching was really brutal. I really did not want to go into a fifth year, but it was kind of one of those I need to make money, so I have to do another year type things.
Adulting.
Yes. So I went into my fifth year and I knew I wanted to leave. So I had been applying to jobs when I knew I wanted to leave my fourth year, and I just wasn't really successful finding a job outside of teaching. So I was like, well, I am going to just make my own way then. And I'd already been doing some business things already. I had been selling on TBT. So I was already kind of in the TBT world. And I was thinking what do I like doing out of this, And it really was the writing side of things. I loved writing the emails. I loved writing blogs. So I kind of just what do they say? A shoot my shot kind of thing, I threw it out there in one of the TPT groups and I was like, hey, if you want someone to write your blogs for you, I'll do it. And it just kind of took off from there. And by the end of that school year, I had saved up enough that I was like, all right, I'm gonna dive in and go for it. So that's kind of the very unromantic version. I mean, I guess the romantic version is I always did love writing. When I was a kid, I used to write stories and I wanted to be an author. So it was kind of a combination of things I already enjoyed doing and also getting out of a bad situation.
Yeah. Remind me what you taught.
I taught English.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to guess. I thought you were an ELA teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I think the jobs that a lot of us do now, they just weren't on the menu on career day back in the day.
Yeah.
So you knew you liked writing, so you became an ELA teacher. Your guidance counselor probably didn't tell you you could also write blogs. You could be a ghostwriter or you could be a copywriter. My guidance counselor didn't know about copywriters.
Yeah.
I feel like that just wasn't on their radar and that's not their fault. So I think that always makes me feel better when we don't take our linear path through career land. It's well, wait a minute. I didn't know this was an option. I changed my mind. The menu changed. I want to spin the big wheel again. But I love that you brought it back to how do I enjoy spending my day? And I think we need to hear the success stories of forging your own path because no one's going to stop by and save us. If you're not happy with the way things are, you got to go make a plan and dig yourself out.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I'm very happy that I did. I think I've had moments in the beginning. I definitely wasn't one of those people who it was hard for me to leave teaching mentally. I was ready to go by the end. But I think sometimes I felt did I waste this career? Right? I just went and got a degree for this. But then I really think of it as that was just the opportunity that life gave me. If I hadn't been teaching, then I would have never started a TPT business. I would have never met the people that I did, and I would never have this business that I do now.
And I feel like you have such a strong understanding of the people who read your words, the people who read the blog posts, the people who read the emails, and such an intimate understanding of the problems they're set out to trying to solve. So I don't think my time in the classroom was a waste personally. The college degree stings, right? Mine's paid
Yeah.
off. So, like, whatever, water under the bridge. And I think what stings for me about it is the second career is equally as profitable, but with no degree. So you're like,
Yeah.
interesting. There were job
Yeah.
paths out there that could have been a little faster and we didn't know. It's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So you needed out of the classroom, been there, and you were like, we're going to make this happen. I probably stayed 2 years longer than I should have. So I
Mm.
actually really admire how quickly you pulled your plan together and got out.
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate in that way. I don't think that that was like a quick start that most people had. But I think, again, because I'd already been kind of in that space, a lot of the people that I worked with in the very beginning were people I'd met like networking and Facebook groups and stuff like that for several years prior. So it was like a easier community to pull from because like we already had that established trust factor and all of those things. Like we'd been chatting for several years before I was like, hey, you want to hire me for this? So I think it was just an easier sell.
No, absolutely. You had a network, no doubt. So you wanted to spend your day writing. You wanted to get out of the classroom. You did it. Win-win. Has it always been a win-win, or have there been any moments that are a little challenging and sticky?
Oh, definitely not always a win-win.
Wouldn't that be nice
Um,
though?
that would be, yeah. Oh, man. I mean, there've been so many moments. I really, this year to me especially, has been the year of really figuring out you don't get to step into your business and like you step outside of yourself, right?
Hmm.
All the things that you struggle with in your own life are going to be the same things you also struggle with in your business. So if maybe you're not great at budgeting or finances, you'll probably bring that with you. If you're not good at saying no, you'll bring that with you.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that the truth? Ah.
So I was in a mastermind last year and that kind of started that like brainstorming process for me of like, why does this feel so hard? Why am I really struggling to like get my time management in place? I feel like I'm working 24/7. Like I quit a teaching job because I didn't want to feel like this. I didn't want to feel anxious all the time. I didn't want to feel like I couldn't step away from my work. And now I'm doing the exact same thing times 10. Like it's not the same stress as being in the classroom, but like it's just another kind of stress that I just like welcomed into my life. And is this what I wanted? Like I didn't become a business owner to stress myself out. I wanted more freedom.
How did we get here? Because brick by brick, you built a new path. And then you're like, oh no, we're right back where we started.
Yeah, it's like I did that. I did that to me. I don't have a boss who
Hmm.
like assigned this work to me, right? None of my clients like forced me into signing a contract with them.
I'm my own toxic boss. Oh no. Definitely been there. Was it like the hours, like all the unpaid time you were putting in as a teacher, and now your hours were terrible?
I think a lot of it was also fear. Like there's a lot
Mhm.
of anxiety in business, right? Because you're like, okay, well, I'm responsible for all of my money, so that means I better be making all the money because I have bills to pay and I can't not. So I would just like say yes to everything, even if I'm looking at my calendar and I'm like, there is no freaking way. Like I literally cannot fit something in. I'd be like, sure, great. Because I'm thinking like, well, what if I need that money, right? Like, what if I get
Mhm.
to a point, what if 3 months from now everything stops? I'm going to wish I had taken that project.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a lot of things out of fear, but then I would be so overworked. I'm working until like 10 p.m. at night. I'm exhausted. I'm cranky. I'm working on the weekends when I really don't want to be. So I'm irritable, and it's like I had to come to this realization of like, am I also putting in like my best work? Because
Mhm.
now I'm like irritable and I'm writing this, like just trying to get through it as quickly as possible. And I don't ever want to feel like I'm doing work that isn't my best work. Like
Right.
that's not a good feeling to be sitting there going, was this my best? You know?
And freelancer life is really tricky like that because you never want to not deliver on a promised deadline. But I also don't want myself inside someone's business if I'm not in a good headspace.
Yeah.
I honor your business too much to go near it right now. So I'm going to choose of like the two crummy scenarios on this menu, and I'm going to deliver one day late, but it's not going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that that's going to be okay. But in those moments, you are driving the bus out of fear, no doubt, because you don't know. Like, if I say, not right now, will they wait until I have an actual opening? If I say no, will something else come up?
Yeah,
You don't know.
exactly.
But there is a point where you realize, like, I literally can't do anything else. And you are forced to take that choice and flex that muscle. So, how did you like pull things back into focus and figure out what your capacity was where you were happy, you could do high quality work, and you could afford to pay the bills?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I think one of the big ones for me is, and a lot of this is working with other people. I won't like pretend like I came up with all these genius ideas on my own. A lot of it was working with coaches and finding people who were like really good at what I wanted them to coach me on, like not just finding like some general business manager, but someone who's like, I help you with this thing.
I help anxious, overloaded former teachers. Right. They have to say
Yeah.
all the right words.
Yes. So I worked with various different people. One of them was really good at the capacity. I went to her and I was like, I would like to make more money. And she's looking at my calendar and going, well, there's no way you can make more money because you have no more time, right? So she's like, well, let's figure out the capacity problem. And she helped me create a kind of system for mapping out how many projects I can take. I've used this for the past year plus now, and that's made a huge difference because now I could overbook myself, but it's very clear when I look at my calendar and I have no white space, literally. There's not a single
Mhm.
white box open. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do that.
And knowing is half the battle, right?
Yes.
Like I've said to my friends, I'm +1 on client capacity. Just knowing that is a world of difference in how you sit down at the office on Monday morning, knowing that like if your capacity was 4, you have 5. If your capacity was 10, you have 11.
Yeah.
Knowing that you've intentionally overbooked a smidge puts
Yes.
you in a much different mindset than when like you don't even know what your capacity is and you're just living with like your fingers crossed.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I think, and maybe that was one of the biggest problems I had the first year in business. I would always like underestimate how long something would take me. So then I was like, oh, I could get that done in a day. And it would really take like 2 days. And then everything gets pushed, right? And now here I am, 10 p.m. Friday night, trying to bust out this project because I've promised someone I'm going to turn it in.
Right.
But just like you said earlier, it was also like, I am someone who has a hard time. I don't want to disappoint anyone. That's
Mm-hmm.
just a personal thing about me that I've brought into my business.
Well, and that's a good quality in a service provider.
I was going to say, in some ways, that's a good thing because I always want to do my best. In some ways, that's bad because I've had moments where I'm like, I should tell someone, hey, I'm going to need one extra day. And in the beginning of my business, that was not easy for me. Now I book all of my projects, so an extra day is built in.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tell a client, like we've worked together, and I might tell you, hey, Janice, I'm going to deliver your project on the 10th. I know I'm not going to be writing it anywhere near the 10th, but I've
Mm-mm.
told you that date because that gives me extra time if I get sick, if an election happens and implodes my world,
Mm-hmm.
if anything else in the world goes awry. I have extra time, and I could still reach out to you if like really things go wrong. But that rarely happens nowadays. And I even have to do that because I know I have that extra time built in.
And it's always good to over deliver. So if you leave yourself space there, I'll always take your fabulous work early. And I think it's also important, all the people that we work with need to hear this reminder. You can't schedule creativity. You can't say that at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, the words are going to be a flowing and they're going to be magical. That's just not how creativity works. So it happens with teachers pay teachers sellers who are like, I am going to make a product on Wednesday. My entire calendar is clear and it will begin and
Mm,
end on Wednesday. Yeah, right. That's
yeah.
not how your best products were ever born. There's rabbit holes, and you have to open another tab and sketch another idea and A B look at two choices. And I don't want to rush that magic. That's how we get to something really good at the end. So it does take some serious relationship building. A lot of times, that email that you're changing a deadline sounds like, I really like where this project is headed. I need to follow it to the finish line. That means it's going to be 1 day late.
Yeah.
It's going to be late, but it's going to be worth it. I refuse to rush through things and have them be poor quality. And I suspect you're the same way.
100%. I don't like that feeling at all.
Mm-mm.
Again, especially when I know someone has trusted me with
Yeah.
their business. I'm like, not only financially, but like you've literally put your business in my hands to deliver the best. I want to do the best.
Right.
So having that built-in time has helped. And like you said, with creativity, that's also something, and this is something a service provider or a digital seller could do, is like I have purposeful days. And every week now, I only work on client work 4 days out of the week. One of those
Mm-hmm.
days is for me. So it could be the same with someone who does courses or, sells digital products online, where you're only doing maybe 3 or 4 days of creation of something. That's a lot. It is a lot of like mental energy that goes into creating something,
Yeah.
to writing for someone, to writing for yourself. I need a day where I can just like knock the things off my to-do list. And also it gives me like something to look forward to. I'm like, okay, I have one more day to like get through things, right? And then I have a day where I can like still work, but it's more relaxed.
I need variety for my brain. So, like, there has to be some flow during the week. It can't be the same types of tasks every day. What about your creative brain? Does it like come to life in the evening or is it sharp first thing in the morning?
Definitely morning. I get my best work done in the mornings. The afternoons are a little on the sketchy side.
So there's so many times that you're like, maybe I'll just do this task after dinner. No, I won't. It won't be good.
No.
And it's every time I do that to myself and I sit down, I'm like, this is not the vibe. Good work is not about to come flowing out of this situation.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm definitely most creative in the morning.
Yeah, I'm a fresh cup of coffee kind of girl.
Yeah,
And so you learn those things by putting yourself in boxes that you don't fit in, right? We
yeah.
try to do work at night and we say, okay, never again. You try to work for 5 days and you're like, oh, that's not it either. You try
Hmm.
to take X clients, you realize that's one too many, and then you put the white space back in. And so the journey is one that we celebrate. All of these things that we know about ourselves really well, we learned really hard lessons along the way.
Yeah,
But if it gets you to a place where you're clear on your capacity, oh my goodness, that's amazing.
yeah.
One thing you said that really caught my eye was a phrase called emails are going unread. Can you share a little bit more about that feeling?
There were a lot of moments in my business where emails were going unread because it's too much. Like I'm absolutely overwhelmed, right? And the things are stacking up in your inbox and it is chaotic and stressful and you're hoping that one moment you're going to find to actually sit down and sift through it all. But I think also like nowadays, it's a little more intentional too at times, like emails going unread. Like sometimes that is my boundary of being able to say, all right, it's 4 p.m. I'm logging off. I'm going to my workout and I'll take care of it in the morning. Or if I'm getting an email at 3 p.m. and it's not super urgent, I can handle that tomorrow. I've set those expectations. I don't email back right away. And I can get back to them in the morning.
I'm not an EMT. No babies are going to die.
Yeah.
This is okay. This can wait till tomorrow. And it's such a muscle you have to exercise at the beginning of your business. You're like, I have to hop on this juicy lead immediately,
Yeah.
or they're probably going to change their mind and I'm never going to get work ever again. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, wait a second. I could probably respond in 24 hours and it'd be okay. And then 24 hours turns into one business day. And every once in a while, you hear on a podcast from someone who can go 2 business days. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. But I have heard that some people can go like 24 to 48 hours or 1 to 2 business days. And I'm like, ooh, 2 business days. But I don't know. You just have to try it because there are some days where you feel your human limits and more emails have come in than you can get back to in one day.
Yeah. 100%. It's one of those things that when you are, especially if you're a service provider, but even outside of that space, I think sometimes, yeah, we think people also expect us to respond within a couple hours, and maybe they do. But if you do wait a business day or do wait 2 business days, and that's like a red flag for someone and they're like, oh, well, I couldn't work with you, or I could never buy from this company again. And that also says something about that person. Not necessarily that they're a bad person, but like, okay, then our expectations aren't aligned. And then we probably aren't a good fit because even with my clients who are obviously the priority in my business, I'm not responding to their emails typically, unless I just happen to have my email inbox open and sitting down to answer stuff. I'm not normally answering in an hour or two, right?
100%.
It's normally going to take me a bit to get to things because most of the stuff, it's not urgent, right? It's stuff that it can wait until I'm done with whatever I need to get through today. So, and I think, for me, again, after that kind of first year or so in business, setting those boundaries was kind of hard because there were a lot of people I had been working with for a while. And I do think it's harder. It's like teaching, right? It's harder when like you have been the lenient teacher who's
Right.
like, chill, relax. And all of a sudden you're like, actually, I'm going to be requiring this from you. Like, you're going to get the kids who push back because they're like, well, that's not what you've expected so far.
Right, that's not the lifestyle we were living. Wait a second.
It was really chill, you know, and I did have, a few clients who I kind of put some boundaries in place with them, and it wasn't received super well. And
Hmm.
that's okay. I hadn't set those expectations before we started working together. So it's like, okay, and this is where our time will now end because now we're not aligned anymore.
It's not a win-win. Yeah.
That's okay. But there will be other people who are aligned with me. But yeah, again, I think it's that fear. We don't put the boundaries because we fear, well, if I don't answer in an hour, well, if I just don't do what they said they want me to do, are they going to walk away? Does that mean I'm not going to meet the goals that I have for myself?
Right. And I know it takes some time to build that trust and you have to earn that trust. But the clients that I've been with a long time know that, like, if it's not their day on my schedule, I can't open up a tab for their business. But when I do open that tab, they appreciate getting my undivided attention on their day
Yeah.
because they know I'm going to be there to unpack their deepest, darkest questions and secrets. And we're going to fully solve the problem. And I just know that I can't do my best work if I'm answering questions really quickly.
Hmm.
If I could table this for one more day, I could give you a really meaty, juicy, much more high quality answer. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, when you attract win-win people and you find the right team members and the right clients, then that feels good for both parties. They're like, when
Yeah.
you get around to it, I would love to chat about X. And you're like, yes, I also would love to talk about that, but like in a big, expansive amount of time, not running out the door.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's again where like putting those boundaries in place or even just expectations in place. Like when I sit down with a discovery call and everything, like I say like this is my style. And it's because it gives people a chance to say that works for me or that doesn't. Because we're all going to have different things that we want from the people that we work with and the people in our lives. And I don't find that offensive at all. There are people that I'm like, "Oh, that's not my style, right? That's not the person I would work with." And then I'm going to find people who are who may be a little more laid back or whatever I'm looking for, right? But knowing that up front helps people make that decision. So then it doesn't feel like you're fighting the whole time.
And it feels better on both sides to just know at the beginning and take that
Yeah.
gut check. Like, this feels exciting.
Yeah.
I want to work that way too.
Yeah.
Someone said once that your email inbox represents other people's problems.
Oh,
And I think about that all the time. How it's like, I need to get one or two things off my list before I head into that landmine of things in the email inbox. And I think that helps me keep a little bit of restraint. Do you have like certain times of day you go in your inbox? What's your structure for keeping the inbox under control?
yeah, I really only check it like two times, maybe three times a day. I usually check it in the morning while I usually eat breakfast like at my computer and like I'll watch a little video and
Hmm.
check my inbox while I do that. And I'll answer like quick things in the morning. So if it's like a, yep, great, got it kind of thing. And then in the afternoons, after I've gotten the bulk of my copywriting done, because again, mornings is like my creativity time, I'll go back and finish off some things. And anything lingering, I do them all on Friday. So those are my CEO days. So like that is one of my tasks on Friday is like I want to walk away with like a few emails in my inbox. And they're like emails I'm saving for some reason, right?
Right. You're waiting for someone else to circle back. There's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
Oh, and I wish I could hold up a big megaphone right now. Like, Branda is checking her email twice a day, and the world didn't burn down
It
around
didn't.
her.
No, didn't.
But it takes trust. It takes trying it out and seeing what happens and realizing it's okay. But yeah, if the words are flowing in the morning, you have to strike while the iron's hot. And then later, when you have that little bit of a lull, all right, let me see if I can save the world in my inbox for a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't use your best energy in the inbox. Oh, we've all learned that the hard way.
Yeah, because you can get trapped there. So
For sure. And then you said you keep one project on your plate at a time. How do you tune out all the noise and all the notifications and all the distractions while you're trying to go into deep focus mode?
I mean, one of them is again letting clients know expectations. So also something I did this year was like giving firm kind of outlines for timelines for everything. It's also making sure my calendar is showing like this is what I'm working on today. So my clients know when to expect things. They know how quickly to expect like revisions back from me. So they're not like, in my inbox going, hey, this is going to get done today, right? So I can focus on what I need to at a time. And then, yeah, like when I'm actually physically working on what I need to do, I don't have my inbox open. That was something I really learned at the beginning of this year. I'm like, if I have that in a tab, I will watch that number increase as I'm doing things and I will like go and check it. So now I close out of Gmail. I usually put my phone away behind me and I turn on my little toggle timer and I zone in. And when that timer is on, and some people don't believe me when I say this, like my friends and family, like, you time yourself? That's so weird. And I'm like, when the timer's on, I literally only do work. If my
Mhm.
husband comes up to me and is talking to me while I'm doing work, I turn off my timer.
I have one that I hold up. Like if my headphones are on and I'm holding this timer, it's like my brain is not open right now.
Yes. Yeah, like the timer's on, I'm working. And when it's off, that's when I take a little break, whatever I need to do. So I don't know, it's just creating, I guess, the conditions for myself to like do my best work too.
It's amazing what an accountability buddy, a time tracking software can be. Just having the little dot open in a tab, being like, I'm keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
You said intentionally that you were working on X.
Yeah.
What you doing? I'm a clockify girl. Toggle and I, it's just not the vibe. But time tracking is so, so useful. And it's really helpful to know, like, if I go in my inbox, it usually takes me, say, 90 minutes. Oh my goodness, all the more reason not to go in first thing over breakfast because you don't realize how long you're in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think also too, like I kind of realized after timing myself for a month or so how long it would take me to like get tired throughout the day. So I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling myself like, oh, I'm just like I'm really slowing down. I can look at the timer. I'm like, oh, well, I've actually kind of like met my time for the day, like what I normally would hit. So that's normal that I'm feeling tired. I don't need to like put extra pressure on myself, even if it's only 3 p.m. and I got what I needed to done. But I'm like, let me think of some other things to do. Like, well, I hit the time that I was expecting to hit today. I got what I expected to get done. I'm not going to force myself to keep going
Right.
just so I can say I worked until 4 p.m.
And like, what other job would do that? We have these like arbitrary expectations we put on ourselves, but we're just being a bad boss to ourselves when we do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a time tracker can totally be your friend. It can teach you how you get your best work done. I have like a 2 to 3 hour block in the morning that's amazing, and another one after lunch. And after that, we're in the bonus round. If I
Yeah.
answer an email, lovely. If I can listen to a podcast and fold laundry, that's more aligned with like the reality of what my brain can give the world at that hour. And that's okay. It also gets me out of bed faster. I know I was second shower in our house last year, and this school year I fought for first shower because I was like, no. I tried that. I hated it. Like my brain's on in the morning. I need to get my butt to my desk and do the things while I still can.
Yeah.
And so that time tracker can tell yourself. And if you can write a blog post in 2 hours in the morning, but it takes you like 2, 3 hour evenings, it's like, well, I'm not doing that again.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that is one of the big things that has come out of timing is like I can also see where my brain is at that day. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I know how long it normally takes me to write something, and but today it's taking me like twice as long. So like I need to also give myself a little bit of grace. And again, because I have that built-in buffer in my week, maybe I can look at, okay, what are some ways that maybe tomorrow I can shift some things around so I don't feel like I'm having to rush through this today because clearly my brain's just moving slower today for whatever reason.
I'll tell you, as someone who works in the project management department, very few people know how long a task actually takes them or should take them, whatever that means. So when you're saving time on someone's calendar to write one email to their list or write one blog post, they don't have any idea how long it took them the last time they did that. And that's what causes a lot of the frustration for business owners. And I think it's important for people to know how long tasks take for them before they hire them out too.
Hmm.
So if I know that writing an email takes me 20 minutes or I know that writing an email takes me an hour,
Hmm.
your pricing for that same task is going to feel very differently for me. But a lot of people head out to shop for a service provider, I think, before they have that information about the time that they would be getting back and what they would be doing with that time to make back their investment. Time tracking is helpful in all the ways.
I'm actually so glad you said that because I was just having a conversation last week with a client on a discovery call, and she was like, "Oh, your packages were like a little bit pricier than I expected them to be." But like 5 minutes before that, she was like, "It takes me like 2 hours to write an email." And I'm like,
Yeah.
they might be a little pricier than you expected, but 2 hours to write an email, that's a lot of time when you're writing an email every week. That's a lot of time to spend on something. And not everyone's going to spend that amount of time on an email. So I get that, right? We all have different things. Like for me, social media is my time drainer. I
Mm-hmm.
hate creating social media posts. So for me, that would be something I would hire out for because it sucks up so much of my time. But emails, I can get them out quickly. So I wouldn't hire for that or I wouldn't pay, maybe as much for that. So yeah, I think that's a great point too. Yeah, because the price might change based on, or your budget might change, or expectations might change
Mm-hmm.
based on how much of a time suck it is for you in your business.
I hired you to do a project inside my business, but I hired you to take something off my desk that had been stuck on my desk for more than 2 years, which is very embarrassing to say out loud. But there was no price on that at that point. It was not moving. I had
Yeah.
obviously done all the things I had in my toolbox. This was stuck. And so the cost to my business for not having that done, there was no measuring it. If you were the unicorn that could take that off my desk, I obviously wasn't. So the price was what it was, and I just made it work. But yeah, you have to gather the information for what the task is on your desk. And if an email is taking someone 2 hours, they probably should hire it out because they could make a new TPT product. There are people out here that can make a new high quality product in 2 hours with a template, earn back that money much faster. And I think if someone's spending 2 hours writing an email, unless it's like a full launch sequence or something, it's probably not ending up as like a super strategic, like home run email in the end. It's probably been overthought in a circle a couple
Yeah.
of times.
Yeah, definitely, which we've all been there with different things in our business. So I get it.
But there are definitely things that I hire out because I'm like, not only is this going to take me forever, but at the end, it's going to be terrible. Sometimes there's no other option. You have to hire a unicorn.
Yeah, for me, it was podcasting. I knew I was never going to do it unless someone did it for me.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you just need those deadlines too. Like this has to be to someone else's desk by Monday. Oh, well, I'm not in the business of letting people down.
yeah, exactly.
I am so glad that you shared your story. I learned new things today about you, which was so exciting. You could have stayed stuck at so many times in this story. It's so easy to notice that running a business has become a hamster wheel. You could have gone right back in the classroom, and some people do, and
Yeah.
it would have been fine. But instead, you got curious and you were like, no, no, this is what I want. I
Hmm.
can figure out how to do it. And you took messy action, you took scary changes, you exercised those muscles. And would you feel like you're in a win-win season right now in business?
Yeah, I feel like this year has been so much better. I've had a lot more moments this year where I get to the end of the day and I go, oh, that was it. And that's
Yeah.
like a really good feeling to feel
Hmm.
like I didn't overbook myself. I met all of my deadlines. I feel really good about the projects I've put out there. I feel really great about the people I'm working with. This is a great season.
And I think in those seasons, it feels extra sweet knowing that it didn't come from the like traditional college path, right?
Yeah.
Like you did this, you made this, this was an idea, and you got scrappy and you learned the things you needed to learn and you figured it out. And I sometimes think that's even more fun than like, I made it to the end of a school year. Well, yeah, but like someone taught me how to do that.
Yeah,
Even like you got to live through a school year as a student first. I never got to live through any of this wild business stuff before I jumped in. So I think that's
exactly.
something really big to celebrate.
Yeah.
Brenda, any other thoughts or questions that you wish I had asked today before we wrap up our time today?
If I was going to give like any piece of advice to anyone who's like in a tough season right now, I think the best thing someone told me that I worked with, and I think it's different advice than I've ever gotten from like a business mentor. We often get asked the question like, what do you love doing in your business? Like, what does your dream business look like? But this person is like, what do you love doing in life? Like, what does your dream life look
Mhm.
like? And that's the place that we started. So it wasn't about what my business looked like. It was like, how many hours do I want to work? Do I want to travel? Is this like the place I want to live? And she's like, build your business around that. Like,
Mhm.
whatever the dream you have is for your life, build your business to fit that dream. And that has really like transformed how I've done business this year. And it's not like I'm at this place where I'm like, living in a McMansion,
No.
living out this like, but like to me, it was the biggest thing was not working so much. It was like working normal hours and getting weekends and evenings back to myself. And 100% I feel like I've accomplished that this year without sacrificing my revenue, without sacrificing my boundaries, and continuing to work with really great people that I've really enjoyed. So it really has been a win-win.
Yeah, and putting together a schedule where you can say yes to opportunities in life, being location independent, being like,
Yeah.
yeah, I look and see what's on my desk. I can pick this up and take it on the road. There's even those tricky moments in business when we have to replace our computer. I get so many big feelings about like, am I buying a desktop or a laptop for the next chapter, right? Like,
Yeah.
am I a take my laptop to a coffee shop kind of girl, or am I the more monitors, the better?
Yeah.
I need all the things. Because you do have to make a really intentional choice when you buy your next computer. It's like, what does my life look like for the next couple of years? Am I going to be flying all around town? Or am I going to be right here in my cozy little office?
Yeah.
Yeah, but leading with how you want your day to look like is really, really smart because I think now that you've designed one job for yourself, you realize, well, I could be a good boss to myself. I could probably put together a path to whatever I do want my day to look like.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I love chatting with other teacher business owners. Where can people find you to connect with you after our chat today?
I hang out on Instagram at The Relevant Collective. I also have a podcast with my co-host Melanie. She's an OBM and it's Chaos to Conversions. You can find it Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that stuff. We talk about marketing, email marketing, launching, pretty much all things marketing on there. So that's also a great place to hear from us more.
I love your podcast. It's definitely not like surface level information. I have to be ready and in the zone to learn, but it feels like I got to like sneak into a little marketing class at a university. That's how I always feel when I sit
Oh,
down for your cozy podcast. Like I cranked the door open and just like snuck in the back row.
I love hearing that because that was our whole intention. We're like, we don't necessarily want this to be another podcast for beginners. Like, we want it to be for people who are a little more established to dig deeper. So that makes me feel good.
That is how I feel. I'm such a fan of the work that you and Melanie do. And I will leave all your magic links in the show notes as we do over here in podcast land. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Branda.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for making this podcast a part of your day. Do you have a win-win teacher business story you'd like to share? Head to cookfamilyresources.com/podcast to find my guest application. I'll also leave that link in the show notes for you. See you in the next episode.